What if I told you there's a massive hidden tax bill waiting for you in retirement, and most people have no idea it's coming? It's not a conspiracy, but it's a reality baked into the system for millions of Americans who have diligently saved in their 401ks and IRAs. Now, what if I told you there was a way for a couple with $1 million nest egg to not only sidestep this trap, but to add an extra 1.5 million to their retirement, completely tax-free? It sounds almost too good to be true, I know, but I'm going to walk through with you exactly how a Roth conversion plan made it all happen. At SG Financial, we've helped hundreds of families use strategies just like this one to turn a looming tax nightmare into a tax-free fortune. Let me introduce to you Tom and Susie Anderson. They're both 55 and they've played by all the rules. They started saving early, stayed disciplined, and built up a nest egg just over $1 million. Their dream is to retire in a few years, pack up the RV, and spend 4 to 5 months every year exploring national parks and visiting their grandkids. It's a beautiful dream, one that requires flexibility and, most importantly, predictable income. But like so many people, as they get closer to retirement dreams, a problem they never saw coming started to take shape. On paper, their finances look great. That $1 million retirement account, fantastic. But here's the catch. Nearly all of it was in pre-tax accounts, like their 401ks. This means every single dollar they pull out is taxable. They felt secure with their savings and comfortable lifestyle, but they were sailing toward a massive tax storm without even realizing it. At first glance, the Andersons' retirement looked great. But when we ran the numbers over the next 30 years, a huge problem appeared. It's called Required Minimum Distribution, or RMD. Thanks to the Secure Act 2.0, RMDs now start at age 73 and even 75 for younger folks. This is when the IRS forces you to start withdrawing money from your pre-tax accounts, whether you need it or not. And every dollar you're forced to take out is taxable income. For the Andersons, the first few years of retirement, from about age 62 to 74, you can see 2 drops in the blue, which is their taxable income. This represents the tax value you're seeing. With no more paychecks and before Social Security or RMDs kick in, their income would be the lowest it had been in decades. But then at age 75, the game completely changes. Their RMDs would start, forcing them to pull escalating amounts from that $1 million IRA. This new income stacked on top of their Social Security would create a tax spike, launching them from the 12% bracket straight into the 22%, and likely even higher as they aged and their RMDs grew. The IRS effectively becomes a very intrusive, silent partner in your retirement, deciding when you take your money, which dictates your tax bracket and even how much of your Social Security gets taxed. It's a total loss of control. This is where strategy meets brute force. The solution is to take back control from the IRS during those tax valley years, that golden window between retiring and RMD starting. We use that time to systematically convert their pre-tax IRA money into Roth IRA. Here's how it works. In their first year of retirement, with their income at rock bottom, we converted a specific amount from their traditional IRA to a Roth IRA. We calculated just enough to fill up the 12% and 22% tax brackets without spilling over into a higher one. They pay the income tax on that conversion now at today's known and relatively low tax rates. Once that money is in Roth, it's on a path to grow 100% tax-free for the rest of their lives, assuming they follow the rules. And because Roth IRAs have no RMDs for the original owner, they're never forced to touch that money. We repeat this process year after year, moving another chunk of money from the taxable bucket to the tax-free bucket. Think of it. If they convert $100,000 and it grows to $300,000 over 20 years, that entire $300,000 is theirs to keep tax-free. In the old account, every penny would have been taxable. But it gets even better. One of the most powerful and often overlooked benefits of a Roth conversion is how it shields your Social Security from taxes. Whether or not your Social Security is taxed depends on your provisional income. It's just a fancy formula where The government adds up your adjusted gross income, any non-taxable interest, and half of your Social Security benefit. Cross certain thresholds and boom, up to 85% of your Social Security benefits become taxable. For most retirees, the number one thing that pushes them over the threshold is their RMDs. But here's the key. Withdrawals from a Roth IRA are tax-free and they don't count towards your provisional income. By converting their traditional IRA to a Roth before RMDs and Social Security began, the Andersons slashed their future taxable income. The result? Far more of their Social Security checks will be theirs to keep, completely tax-free, saving them tens of thousands more over their lifetime. People always ask, why would I pay taxes today if I can wait? It's a fair question, but the answer comes down to simple math. Would you rather pay a known lower tax rate on the smaller sum of money today, or a potentially much higher tax rate on a much larger pile of money tomorrow? Let's run a quick example. Let's say you convert $100,000 today and pay a 22% tax on it. That's a $22,000 tax bill, which you now pay cash from a separate savings account. Now, that 100,000 in a Roth where it grows for 15 years to 250,000, when you pull that out in retirement, the tax is zero. Nothing. Now compare that to leaving it in a traditional IRA. That same 200,000 when you're forced to withdraw it could easily be taxed at 24%, 32%, or whatever higher tax rates exist in the future. At just 24% rate, that's a $60,000 tax bill. You just saved $38,000 on that one single move. That's how this strategy builds serious wealth. Timing is everything. For the Andersons, the sweet spot was those gap years after they retired, but before RMDs began. But there are other golden opportunities. A market downturn, for example, is a fantastic time to convert. It feels scary, but you're essentially moving your assets on sale. You convert the same number of shares, but because their dollar value is lower, the tax bill is smaller. Then the entire rebound and all the future growth happen inside the tax-free Roth account. Another sweet spot is any year you have an unusually low income. Maybe you've changed jobs, started a new business, or took a sabbatical. Any year you find yourself in a lower than normal tax bracket is a window of opportunity to move money to a Roth at a discount. As powerful as this is, it's easy to mess up. Doing it wrong can create more problems than it solves. Here's the biggest mistakes to avoid. First, converting too much at once. This can easily push you into the higher tax bracket, completely defeating the purpose of paying taxes at a strategic low rate. Second, using the IRA money itself to pay the tax. This is a critical error. Not only shrinks the nest egg you're trying to grow, but can also trigger penalties if you're under 59 and a half. Always have a plan to pay the conversion tax from a separate non-retirement account. Third, ignoring Medicare. Large conversion is a big spike in your income, and 2 years later, that can trigger a nasty surprise. Higher Medicare Part B and D, known as IRMA. That's the income-related monthly adjustment amount. Essentially, the Social Security Administration uses your income and tax filing status from 2 years ago to determine if you owe an IRMA for the current year. A good plan smooths conversions over many years to keep your income under those thresholds. And finally, remember that this is a one-way street. Since a law change in 2018, Roth conversions are permanent and cannot be undone. You have to be sure before you pull this trigger. So, what did this all mean for Tom and Susie? The change was staggering. In their original plan, they would have been shackled to their RMDs, paying over $1 million in taxes throughout retirement, and eventually leaving their kids with a huge tax bill. With the new plan, they're strategically paying taxes during those low-income years. By the time they reach their 80s, their taxable traditional IRA will be almost empty, and their Roth IRA grows into a massive tax-free war chest. The RMD tax bomb now is completely diffused. Our final projection showed that this strategy added over $1.5 million in after-tax wealth to their net worth. That's real money they get to keep, spend, and pass on to their kids instead of forking it over to the IRS. They now have the freedom to travel just like they dreamed, without ever looking over their shoulder for a surprise tax bill. A Roth conversion strategy isn't about just moving money around. It's about fundamentally changing the rules of the game. It's about taking control back from the IRS, instead of letting forced withdrawals and unknown future tax rates decide your fate. You decide when you pay your taxes. You decide how you access your money, and that is true financial freedom. The Anderson story is a powerful example, but your situation is unique. A successful strategy requires careful multi-year planning that weighs your income, assets, goals, and even state laws. If you have a significant nest egg in pre-tax accounts and are wondering how to protect it from that ticking tax bomb, I encourage you to take the next step. Click the link below to schedule a complimentary consultation. We can run a projection for you and show you exactly what a personalized Roth strategy could mean for your future.